Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to join you. My name is Dave Tappell, I'm Minister for Local Government, and thank you for joining us this afternoon, and particularly to everyone who is tuned in from no matter where you are in Western Australia, a very warm welcome. We are meeting here in Perth on Noongar country, on the Whadjuk First Nations people, so I'd like to acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people, pay my respects to elders past, present, emerging, and also acknowledge the First Nations people in the communities in which you all live, reside and represent. Can I first of all welcome and acknowledge Jamie Parry, of course, who is the President of the Local Government Professionals, and Ms Lisa Lau, who is the Executive Director of Catalyse, and to everyone who's joined us, it's fantastic to have you here. Today we're launching the Market Community Resilience Scorecard Report, which I've read, and I want to congratulate all local governments and all of those that participated in this very, very important process. And can I begin also by acknowledging the tremendous work of local governments throughout Western Australia, particularly during this COVID-19 challenge. There's no doubt that it's challenged all of us in a whole range of ways, and it's required of us to reach deep within our resources, deep within our communities to respond and to assist in a planned navigation through what has been an interesting journey. For all of you, of course, in local government, you've recognised, and I applaud you, you've recognised the critical role that local government plays in the response and the recovery process. And for that, I thank you sincerely. And I want to acknowledge all the local governments, leaders, the leadership within local government, your staff, and of course your communities more broadly who've supported you in the way that you've responded, and of course the strategic approach you've taken to assist and collaborate with state and federal governments in mapping a way forward. This is interesting times. I've said that to many of you in other webinars. And of course, we know in Western Australia we are well placed. But of course, as we've seen in other parts of Australia, particularly in Victoria at the moment, things can turn very quickly. And so we want to make sure that we recognise that, but also that we continue to build resilience within our communities. And it is up essentially to the local government sector to lead that, in my view. You are the best place to lead that. So thank you for all the work you've done. Many of you have tried new stuff, which I think is fantastic. You've been required to take some very significant risks. Many of you have tested boundaries, have looked at innovative ways to aid your community in responding and responding to and recovering. So I want to congratulate you on that. And what it also highlights, I think, to all of us is that this is about working together at all levels, working together, collaborating, and making sure that in partnership we can actually not only strengthen and support our communities, but we can also demonstrate and instill a sense of confidence. I think a lot of people at this time are looking to leadership at a local level to inspire them and to assist them as they personally deal with some of the challenges that they've faced through this COVID-19 experience. So well done to everyone. Can I thank all the residents, the local government employees, and we don't do enough of that, acknowledging the employees of local government. Some 20,000 plus people work in local government across our state in a whole variety of ways. You are essentially the coalface for your communities, and you are the ones that quite often shoulder much of the challenge and burden of a challenge such as COVID-19. So I thank you sincerely, and if I could ask all of you, be you CEOs or indeed leaders, elected leaders, to continually look after your staff, to make sure you respect that and understand the critical part that they play in your local community. I'm very pleased now to hand over to, of course, Jamie Parry, of course, who is the president of LG Pro, and over to you, Jamie.
Oh, thank you very much, Minister, and thank you very much for the opportunity to participate today. And also good afternoon to Lisa from Catalyse and all of those who are participating in the webinar. Local government professionals was very pleased to be involved in both the employee and community resilience scorecards in partnership with the department and Catalyse, and I thank you both for your commitment to these particular projects. And I really want to thank the 128 local governments that helped in supporting the promotion of the community resilience scorecard as well. It really was a significant collaboration in terms of local governments, and it was effectively rolled out because we all really wanted to capitalise on the momentum and needs of our communities. And the results of the scorecards should be a focus for individual local governments in the response and recovery phase. And that will also be a focus for us as an association in the provision of information, tools and advocacy efforts on behalf of the sector that will meet the needs of the communities throughout the state. With regard to the community resilience results, I found these so interesting, and Lisa is going to present the results in more detail shortly. But for a start, community wellbeing is higher than I had envisaged, and I think a significant part of that is due to the way in which the state government has dealt with and continues to deal with the crisis. The pandemic has likely shown how cultural factors like trust in institutions and the willingness to follow their advice and instructions, combined with that need for people to want to belong to a safe and inclusive community, can actually influence how this sort of adversity unfolds. Well, at least that's the way I see it within WA. There is community confidence that there is a relatively strong commitment to economic and social wellbeing by local governments, and our communities are acting responsibly in answer to this. And the scorecard shows that local communities across the state are generally in good health and hopeful and enthusiastic about the future. And that demonstrates to me a great deal of positivity and resilience that I perhaps wasn't expecting, given that significant uncertainty factors such as employment and personal financial situations are matters of concern to many within our communities. And of course, I am very pleased that community members are generally happy with local government's response to COVID-19, and that the sector has demonstrated clear thinking, good decision making, has shown compassion, and has also developed good levels of community trust. These results are also reflected in the perceptions of local government employees who participated in the employee resilience scorecard that was also provided to us by Catalyse. And that showed that there was a high degree of positivity and resilience across the local government workforce within WA. And I think that is a real credit to the leadership and the integrity of the people who are drawn to work within the sector. And like most places, we were all thrust into this, having to be a lot more flexible and innovative in our approaches when there was general uncertainty and a lot of angst, not only for us individually as workers, but also for those within the communities that we live and that we work to serve. Whilst the recovery priority results probably aren't a surprise, they do reinforce the community belief that local government does have an integral role to support the federal and state government's recovery objectives. And the release of the state government's recovery plan and investment of $5.5 billion is an important step to help drive those recovery efforts. Importantly, a number of local governments have already established their own response and recovery strategies, and I would acknowledge the estimated $500 million, which has already been leveraged to support the pandemic response at a local government level. And these strategies are an ideal way, I think, of providing clarity to the community regarding the roles, the responsibilities, the arrangements, and the actions that are needed and underway to ensuring that there is an integrated relief and response by local governments. And of course, they should align to the strategic intent of the state's plan, given that the majority of the investment and recovery programs that we're thinking of and the state are thinking of have close alignment. And I did read an interesting quote the other day, which strongly resonated with me, and that was that everything we do before a pandemic will seem alarmist, everything we do after a pandemic will seem inadequate. And this is certainly a dilemma, because I think that we're all starting to question which phase we're in and where our state could be in the short term. The scorecard results tell me that communities really are looking to us for leadership. Local governments should be using this time we have now to reflect on their ability to navigate the crisis, consider what actions are required to increase responsiveness and become more resilient, scenario planning, reviewing your risk management practices, alternative service delivery models, assessing your service capabilities, and most importantly, community engagement, communication and support are all integral to our ongoing success. Plan but aim for speed over elegance in the short term, I think. Perfect can be the enemy of good, especially during crises when prompt action is required, and I think we have delivered very well over the last couple of months. Whilst it's difficult to think of long-term, think of this in long-term in relation to plan when we're battling an immediate crisis, it's times like these that strong leadership is required at all levels of government. And Australia seems to be embracing a new style of politics, one that's cleaner, collaborative and evidence-based. It's certainly one that's got my attention now. The bipartisanship at national cabinet level in leading and coordinating the response, I believe, is enabling and empowering local communities to own their own responses through communication, education, capacity building and support. And community government trust can be associated with stronger economic growth, increased innovation, greater stability and better health outcomes. And I think the future of this trust relies on how well these measures enable us to circumvent a drawn out crisis and adjust towards a new reality. I think the community has spoken through the scorecard and are providing us with valuable information, and now it's up to us to be able to use it to continue engagement with our communities and deliver on our commitment to strategically social and economic recovery planning. I'm particularly proud of the sector and the way in which it has responded to the crisis thus far, and on behalf of local government professionals, I'm really delighted to also have been associated with the partnership in delivering these important scorecards. So make the most of the feedback, and thank you once for your participation.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and again acknowledging the very important role of LG Pro. And Candy, of course, CEO as well. Can I acknowledge Candy, who's in our little room here, but we don't have a camera big enough to capture everybody. But Candy, thanks for joining us. Can I now introduce you to Lisa Lowe. Now, Lisa, of course, is the Executive Director of Catalyse. And Lisa, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you as well, Jamie, for those insightful remarks. I have the real pleasure of running through the Culture Employee Resilience Scorecard and also the results from the Market Community Resilience Scorecard with you today. So we will start off looking at the employee results. As was mentioned, this was a study which took an enormous amount of collaboration between the sector. This study was done in early May, and we heard from people in 122 local government authorities, and that 2,236 employees expressed their needs. The important thing about hearing from so many people across the state is it means that we're able to look at the results at a regional level. We can look at the results of how did employees in the larger local governments cope with the crisis relative to those in smaller or the micro councils in regional areas. We're able to look to see how people in different roles across the organisation, whether in corporate services or community development or works, and look at the roles, executive roles versus non-executive, how did they respond to the crisis, gender, age, and also have a look to see people who are members of local government professionals. How did their results, how did their experience differ to those who are not members? In both of these reports, you'll see us talking about an index score. And the index score is the result expressed, it's a zero-based score expressed out of 100. Now, often we'll see things represented as a percentage. So it might be 40% of people rated it very good or excellent. And then they were left thinking that the other 60% didn't give a very good rating. But when we look at the index score, we're able to look at the responses from every single person and work out what the average is and determine that index score. So an index score of 50 would equate to being an average score of good. 75 would be very good and 100 would be excellent. So let's have a look at some of the insights, and starting off with the local government's response to COVID-19. What we saw here was that local government made a very swift and decisive response to COVID-19. We saw that 1 in 5 employees were deployed to another role. So they were quickly given another purpose, a role definition, and some guidance about how to better meet a need that was currently in the community. In addition to that, it's amazing to see that over 1 in 2 employees were given an opportunity to work from home or from an alternative location. And when we stop and think about the logistics that were required to make that possible, it is absolutely amazing what was achieved in such a short period of time. And employees and local government demonstrated their resilience. When we look at the wellbeing index scores across these 6 key measures of general health, mental health, diet and exercise, social relationships, work and the financial situation, we can see that the average scores are sitting around good or better in all of those areas. And we can also see, looking at the black bars, which show the general community results from the Market Community Resilience Scorecard, and we compare them to the results from the employees through the Culture Scorecard, we can see that general health was better amongst local government employees than it was across the general community. The areas, though, where we see that it's lower, and this will need to be an area of further focus and attention, is around social relationships and also diet and exercise. Now, in any time of crisis, it's incredibly important that our leaders show clear thinking, that they build confidence in the community and also in their employees, that they do show compassion and empathy, and that they manage risks incredibly well. And it was really pleasing to get the feedback from employees that most people agree that that's exactly what their leaders did in their local government area. There was clear thinking, strong confidence, empathy, compassion, and local government was able to manage those risks. Now, for frontline workers, people who were facing the community and required to do those essential roles in local government, that was incredibly important. The other thing is that people were required to respond in new ways. And it went well because most people are saying that they're open to new ideas and innovation moving forward. So what does the future of local government look like in the eyes of employees? Well, more people are saying they want to embrace new ways of working and delivering services than going back to the old ways that things used to be. Now, it's important to note, looking at the chart on the bottom, that there's still people there who really like the way things were being done, and they do want to go back because not all was broken in local government before. But we are seeing a large number of people who are open to these new ideas of introducing more innovation, more technology, and open to behaving in new ways to better meet the needs of the community. So what are some of the employees' suggestions on innovations that they would like to embrace moving forward? Well, there's a big tick around flexible working arrangements. The opportunities to work from home, I think we blasted a number of myths over the last few months that it can work and it can be incredibly effective. Having flexible hours as well. We heard examples of local government areas where, in order to try and bring in social distancing, people could start work earlier or maybe they could work later. The use of technology as well to assist with social distancing through the use of more online customer forms. And that's what employees are saying, can we do more of this? This is great. Let's embrace the future. Let's embrace technology for applications, enrolments, class registrations, etc. And Zoom and Teams has had a big tick as well. People are really liking the way that it's improved the effectiveness of internal communication, reducing travelling time, resulting in shorter meetings, but also document sharing, and people can see the application of this for workshops, for training, for HR inductions and more. So technology is to be embraced, and that's from people who are working out in the parks, etc., with tablets, to greater access through cloud. And there's other areas there as well, including external communication and consultation. So from the local government professional members' points of view, they tend to be happier and give higher performance ratings than people who are not members. So we might want to look into that as well to see how local government professionals could extend their services to be more accessible for more people in local government. We also see that people who are members of local government professionals are more open to embracing change in the future. They're more open to innovation. So let's have a look now at community resilience results. Similar to the employee study, we had a large number of local governments, 128 across the state, who volunteered in a very short period of time, and when given very little information and asked to trust and come along on this journey, they did so, and it helped us to reach 7,666 West Australians. When you get this full data, you'll be able to look at that and you'll be able to see it by the regions, but you'll also be able to look at it by demographics, and you'll be able to look at it by various attributes such as disability, whether they had chronic health issues, whether they're First Nations people or language other than English, and also what type of home they're currently living in. So you'll be able to look at the data across all these different factors to guide the decision making at a local government level. The Community Resilience Scorecard covered a range of things from level of concern and impact to the reach and impact of the key messages. We looked at communication sources, we looked at wellbeing, and we also looked at the community's ratings of how local government performed and where they want you to prioritise moving forward. So we'll go through a few of the key insights next. The first one is about concern and personal impact from COVID-19. The first thing to acknowledge is that 1 in 3 in the community had high levels of concern about COVID-19, and 1 in 2 to 1 in 4 in the community experienced a high personal impact. When we look at the combination of those results across the regions, and we look at level of concern from low to high, and we look at degree of personal impact going from left to right, we can see that in the Kimberley region, they had the highest concern with COVID-19. When we look at personal impact, it was moderate and it was more in line with how it was across the state. Where in the Gascoyne area, we can see that concern was lower, but personal impact was higher. And in the Pilbara region, we saw that level of concern was low compared to the other areas, and degree of personal impact was also low. So looking at community wellbeing, the first thing again to acknowledge is that there was good resilience with the ratings of good or better for mental health, general health, diet and exercise, social relationships, work, and the financial situation. But if there was an area there where local government could look to help communities, it would definitely be an improved diet and exercise. We mentioned that we're able to cut these results by lots of different cohorts, and the one which is of great interest looking at the results are our young adults. When we look at the wellbeing scores in each of those areas, we see that their scores are lower than they are for the general community. And the biggest gap there is coming through in mental health, where the general community is scoring 59 out of 100, but mental health for young adults is low at 44. We also see diet and exercise, work and financial situation at similarly low levels. So looking at mental health a little bit closer, there is good news there. 77% of community members are rating their mental health as good, very good or excellent. And this is in a time of a global pandemic where there's lots of stress on community. We do want to look closer to find out why the scores are lower in the Pilbara area at down at 47 out of 100. And if we look to the right of that screen where we see the breakdown of age, the variance in the gap becomes very, very clear. 18 to 24-year-olds provided an overall score of 44 out of 100, and mental health does get better as people get older. And at the age of 75 and older, the score is high at 75 out of 100. So what can we learn from older people? Why are they more resilient, and why is their mental health greater than it is for our youth? When we look at work and employment opportunities, again, there's some good news. 70% of the community rate their work or employment opportunities good, very good, or excellent. And we do see 14% rating it as poor. And we want to understand that group more and find ways to be able to support them to improve their quality of life. We do see variances across Western Australia. Work and employment opportunities are highest in the Pilbara, but they are lowest in the Peel region. And similar to mental health, we see that our 18 to 24-year-olds are giving low ratings. We also see low ratings for work and employment opportunities at the other end of the age spectrum, with people aged 65 and older rating their opportunities for work lower. So which are the impacts from COVID that are of greatest concern in our communities? Well, family and friends getting sick is top of the list, followed by the recovery of the local economy. And then we look at factors like people's own financial situation or staying connected with family and friends, work and employment, and then their own health. And then mental health, 23% are spontaneously saying that that is an area of greatest concern. Concerns are fairly similar across the different regions, with economic recovery and worries about family and friends getting sick in the top two across most of the regions. One of the regions that jumps out as being different is the Pilbara, where mental health, so factors such as stress, anxiety or loneliness coming up as their #1 concern, followed by staying connected with their family and friends. And then they choose family and friends getting sick. So we looked earlier on at how employees were rating local government performance. So now we look to see how community is rating local government performance, and we see it's also strong, with the majority of the community agreeing that they have confidence and trust in their leadership. They think their local leaders have shown clear thinking and decision making. They definitely are happy with the way COVID risks have been managed in the local community, with the overall score there high at 73 out of 100. And they think that their local government is open to new ideas and innovation and doing things differently. And they've seen experiences of that during the response to COVID-19. So overall, we see the majority of people are agreeing that local government has provided a good response to COVID-19. So where do they want local government to put the efforts as we move into the COVID-19 recovery phase? And hopefully we stay in the recovery phase. Their main priority is for you to work on economic recovery and protecting and growing local employee opportunities, followed by your continued focus on your health and wellbeing services to do with sport and recreation, your library, your culture and art, community development initiatives, which is definitely core business for local government. Your local infrastructure projects. So we saw more people riding bikes during this time. So investing in infrastructure to improve the networks of bike paths, but also looking to improve internet speeds as well. 1 in 3 would like local government to work more closely with the business community and local residents to develop a local recovery plan. So this is an ideal opportunity to communicate the state recovery plan and to look at the role that local government, community, and also individuals within the community can take to help to put that plan into action. Priorities around support services for people who are most vulnerable to COVID-19 were also mentioned. Safety and security, and sustainability and climate change is still on the table. They do want you to focus on improved communication and then public health and digital innovation. But these priorities do vary slightly across the state. In the top spot though, everybody is saying they want local government to have a bigger role in economic recovery and creating local jobs. And it's important to note that economic development hasn't really been core business for local government. So it is an area where everybody is going to need to collaborate to find the expertise and to share the expertise to put some good actions in place. All right, so some of the variances that we do see with the priorities, for example, community safety and crime prevention. This is where we see more people in the Peel and more people in the Kimberley region mentioning that as one of their top 3 priorities. And when it comes to creating a local recovery plan, there is more support and interest in that in the Peel, the Southwest, the Goldfields Esperance and the Great Southern. So the key finding there is that in developing that local recovery plan, the community wants to be engaged, they want to be involved in that process. Communication is such an important part of what local government did, and it's a key driver to the success in getting those key messages out to the community around COVID-19. When we look at the black bars here, these are the current sources of information. So this is how people got information from local government, and then the green bars are their preferred ways of receiving information in future. So we see the important role that social media is playing in local government. We had close to 50% said that that was their current source, but it continues to be their preferred source as well. Website, around 30% said that it was current and it continues to be their preferred. And then third for current was email, followed by local community newspaper. When we look at the gaps in communication, we can see that the community is sending a really clear message to say they want to receive more email communication, they want to receive more e-newsletters, they want to receive more direct email, and they want to receive more SMS alerts. Now, all of those things can only happen when local government is investing in building their databases and that they have current and accurate information, email addresses, mobile phone numbers, so that they can reach out to people. And the other key message coming from that is that communities are saying that they want their information to be direct, they want it to be targeted, and they want it to be customised to their individual needs. Now, preferred information channels do vary across the state, and we see some big differences by region, and no doubt we'll see some variances at the local government level as well. For example, local community newspapers are valued and wanted more in the Wheatbelt, Peel, Southwest and the Great Southern area. Whereas local government websites come up as a higher priority in the Perth Metro area, the Kimberley, the Pilbara, the Midwest and also in the Goldfields Esperance. So overall, reflecting on the findings from the study, we can see that West Australians have shown great strength and resilience during the pandemic. General health only dropped by 2 index points across Western Australia compared to results from a couple of years ago when we were not in pandemic times. We've got 7 in 10 people in the community who are feeling hopeful and enthusiastic about the future. And overall, people are happy with local government's response. We saw that employees and people in the community applaud their local governments for showing clear thinking and decision making during a time of crisis, for showing empathy and compassion, and that's helped to build further trust and confidence in local government. Trust that they will make good decisions that are in the best interest of the people in the community, and that you will continue to do good risk management to protect the health and safety of people in the community. So what's next? Well, the Culture Employee Resilience Scorecard and the Market Community Resilience Scorecards are currently available for you to download from local government professionals' website. As of tomorrow, we'll be distributing results at the regional level, and we'll also begin circulating 139 individual reports to each local government with confidential findings for you to review and share with your community. There's also opportunity to keep collaborating, to keep sharing best practice with one another, to keep sharing the great ideas that you're introducing. And now I'd really like to pass back to the Minister for some closing comments. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Lisa and for the work that you have done to collaborate all of the information that's come through as part of the scorecard. And also some of the findings of this, I think, do a number of things. Firstly, I think they underpin the confidence that the community has in their local governments. It's something that we've been talking about a long time, is about these results and this scorecard, I think, underpins an enhanced and ongoing trust of local governments across the state. And whilst there are lots of differences that have been highlighted, the interesting thing for me is, of course, the role that local government plays and the will of people to support their local government. An enhanced role in economic development is really quite significant. I'm very pleased now to finish off today's webinar to talk about the West Australian Recovery Plan, which, of course, as you would be aware, was announced and launched by the Premier recently. The State Recovery Plan will help build and strengthen hope, and I want to underpin that. One of the things I think all of our community is looking for now is hope, and therefore that's why leadership becomes so important. Jamie mentioned that at the very beginning about the real role of leadership now. This is a time for local government to really step up and demonstrate its worth and its importance. The State Recovery Plan, though, has 21 recovery priorities under 4 focus areas, and in collaboration with this recovery plan, local governments will play a key role in supporting many of these areas, and they can include, or will include, unlocking barriers to investment, supporting small businesses. I really want to acknowledge how many examples of that I've heard of, that local governments are assisting small businesses, and I appreciate that. Building local infrastructure, building community infrastructure, housing construction, revitalising culture and the arts, a particular interest of mine, supporting our most vulnerable people in our communities, investing in regional Western Australia, and pathways for young people. Now, these areas, of course, all align with what the community has told us are their main priorities for local government over the next 6 months. And overall, they would like local government to prioritise economic recovery and local employment opportunities, community health and wellbeing, local government's so well placed with regard to that, and local infrastructure. Now, it's important to note that, as has been highlighted, Lisa's highlighted very clearly in the outcomes, that priorities will vary across the state, and as we've heard, as examples in places or regions like the Kimberley and Peel, community safety and crime prevention, for example, that was given a higher priority. So we need to acknowledge that there will be differences. We also need to pay attention to the broader lower wellbeing scores for mental health. No doubt during a recovery period, the ongoing health and wellbeing of our community, particularly in the area of mental health, will remain a very important consideration for attention. Again, local government's capacity to do that is important. Ultimately, though, by working together, we have a large, robust and representative data bank to support decision-making and recovery planning in Western Australia. And again, importantly, this information is available at state, regional and local levels. So now, if I could just finish with some concluding remarks. Firstly, I really do want to thank Jamie and LG Pro, Candy and the team there, and also, of course, Lisa for from Catalyse for your work, and also, of course, to all of you who've been listening carefully to this webinar. We will all be doing this together. Our communities are going to succeed and thrive if we continue to work together, and I appreciate the partnership that LG Pro, WALGA and the broader local government sector is continuing to have with the state government and with the federal government. As Jamie said, we've seen some remarkable change in the last few months, or over the last 6 months or so, where all levels of government, all political parties working together demonstrate the importance of collaborating so that we navigate our way forward and place Western Australia and our nation in the very best position it can be as we emerge from this crisis. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I encourage you to share the results, promote the results of the study across your local community, because it's very important data that's been collected here. The report's available, as has been said, with regard to download from the department, and please let people know that that is available for them to digest. And overall, it's very, very pleasing that the community is happy overwhelmingly with local government's response to the COVID-19 challenge. And on behalf of the Premier of Western Australia, Mark McGowan, and the state government, I'd like to thank all local governments again for working closely with us, for your support, for your hard work, for your leadership in your communities during these very challenging times. And I thank you all for being involved today and encourage you to share and promote the results of this study across the local community. So as the two Ronnies would say, it's good afternoon from me and it's good afternoon from him. Good afternoon.